Chapter 11. When the bus finally took off, Root felt alone and exposed. No Casa, no Harper, or familiars. She had one piece of adult luggage, her trusty backpack, and an anxious tummy, and a head full of unanswered questions. Hoisting the strap onto her shoulder, she moved quickly, her warm breath puffing past cold cheeks. Right before stepping onto the train, Root shot a worried hand into her pocket, double-checking that her backup baggie of the 10 hadn't spontaneously vanished. It was an old OCD ritual, born of a crappy memory and years of disruptive time skips and loops. Still there. Make that the last time, Root. No more checking. Now get on the damn train already. Once aboard, she moved quickly through the sleek interior. Root thought there would be more kids her age and more passengers overall, but to her relief, the assigned compartment was blissfully empty. "All mine! Score!" she said, tossing her bag and collapsing onto the seat opposite the window. The train pulling away jostled her some, but there was a distinct lack of turbulence after it got going. She focused on the fluffy clouds and brilliant sun hitting the glass to try and stay awake. Outside the train, she watched the cityscape transition from the fully intact perimeter architecture toward the bowl's distinctively distressed, gnarled edge. With its many biometric cameras and sensors, downtown's normal remnants were all clean, squeegeed glass and orderly right angles. That transitioned abruptly into heat-seared cinder block and a definite lack of city services. Bam! It would be a while before Root would reach the artificial playa at the epicenter of the blast that had been easier to transform into the hub spaceport. It was like a giant had shaved every detail from the stark, blast-forged stone ground. But, by contrast, the edge of the bowl was flash-frozen in nightmarish time. As soon as the train passed by the giant screens, flashing with historical information and warnings to wayward tourists, it dropped off the sharp rim like a roller coaster. That in no way helped Root's stomach, which was currently negotiating with half a bagel and a couple of dissolving, bitter beads of herbs, entheogens, and nootropics. As the shiny, slithering train traversed the steep 300-year-old favelas, Root marveled at the collapsed city blocks. Undercut by the deep directional blast, the streets, houses, parks, and offices had broken up like ice sheets. Then, gravity got to work on the entire hot mess as it slumped down and hardened in place. The original arterial wires of the early 2020s architecture had been severed, sticking right out of the walls. "Such a clean cut," Root said absent-mindedly. The light interacted with her dose as the lumens in the cabin rose with the sun. 500 million photons hitting her retina produced a cascade of neurochemicals. And that, in turn, introduced the next stage of the 10. Because change was the only thing you could never avoid when taking the sacred herbs. In each session, in each moment, and most importantly, in yourself. So with her changed eyes, she looked out across the city again. Far in the distance, she could make out some other raised train tracks, meandering above the graffitied, slipshod repairs running from the 12 evenly spaced stations around the bowl's circumference to meet at the hub. Like the face of a giant clock, Root thought. She wondered if that was a conscious design element, or had it subconsciously infiltrated their building plans. Perhaps one train for every month. Of course, Root had seen the historical vids in school and at home. And when she was old enough, Casa and Harper took her to the memorial and the museum inside the hub. It hadn't gone as planned. "But," Root began, assaulting them with her usual interrogation, "if the bots really did get so smart all of a sudden, why not stay and help the Earth even more? Couldn't they have just joined us, lived in peace? And the whole thing about so many people who can't become dirts or bots, it makes no sense is all I'm saying." "Yeah, I hear you, kid. was Harper's apparently weak response. As they walked through the echoey exhibit, staring at debris so sanitized and cleaned it could be sold as art, Root hated him. Hated him for being so cryptic all the time. For betting yet not marrying Casa. And for leaving them randomly, yet seemingly every time Root started feeling like he might settle down and finally become her. The painful memories of her naive younger self jarred Root back to the present. But recalling her previous misperceptions again left her feeling inadequate and a little sad. History had always bored her, but the central questions behind people's decisions and how they manifested in historical events plagued her. And the perennial frustrations causing her angst always resurfaced when she thought about the ancient conflicts. Root felt stupid for not figuring out why Dirts and McCarthy couldn't figure it all out. A pointless, joy-dissolving exercise. So today, no. Just move on already, Root. Jeez. Fold it in. Emerge, she hissed, rubbing her hoodie sleeves together for warmth. You're lucky I don't pay taxes yet, she declared to the cityscape. 'Cause this train is colder than a polar bear's butthole. Case in point, if the bots were so brilliant, how come our tech is so low tech? But then, like a blatant, cosmic, not so fast bitch, her eyes were dazzled by the sunlight gleaming off an intact bot building, and then another, glittering silver and gold. They peppered the slummy, primitive Reggie landscape, untouched by time or the tail end of the blast. Indeed, diamonds in the rough, rising up and out of the chaotic, cobbled-together neighborhoods. If only marriages lasted like that, she thought bitterly. Root had always wanted an image of the deadbeat sperm donor who had knocked up her mom, so she could destroy it herself. She still didn't believe Casa had shredded, deleted, or thrown out everything to do with her father after she met Harper, because no one gets rid of it all when it comes to exes and past loves. Despite their eternally shiny cladding, vines, trees, and lots of bird shit had defiled the glass fortresses long ago. 300 years without a landscape service is a long-ass, messy time. Just like those buried Mayan temples, Ruth thought, smirking. The 10 and her old soul were weaving threads of the past and present together effortlessly, but slowly. Far too slowly to equalize the constant, positive pressure that rushed out of her searching mind every goddess-damn second. She had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and no idea of who or what was chasing her addled spirit. Restless did not do the feeling justice, and in her darkest days, she hoped that crazy didn't either. But those bots weren't declining like the Mayans. So why would they build all these beautiful forever fortresses? Do all they did for society, then just up and leave? She huffed, trying to let a different version of the same question go. Again. The compartment's gentle rocking and soft background noises made it easy to wallow in sentimentality, like a warm bath. She wished she would never arrive, and the train had magically turned her around, taking her right back to the depot. What a beautiful lie, she said with a gentle, private laugh. She didn't want to leave home or Earth, and Root really didn't want to meet any bots, no matter how historically significant everyone kept telling her it was. Screw history, she thought. Define all of society, Reggie's and Dirt's. At least in her mind, anyway. Grunting in frustration, she half-heartedly smacked the glass of the window. Between all the train sensations, her mounting frustration, and the 10, Root felt a bit overwhelmed. Closing her eyes, she was finally seduced by the sun's comforting rays, as the train's gentle rocking initiated a trance state. For Root, this was how many of her journeys began, unintentionally.